We all remember playing with fingerboards as a kid, but this man turned fingerboarding into his career and lifelong passion.
My name is Mike Schneider. I'm a professional fingerboarder, and I'm the owner of FlatFace Fingerboards.
Since he was about 10 years old, he's been building his own fingerboards and customizing his own scaled-down skate parks, and he's been shredding ever since.
Learning a new trick, do you think it's more painful on a skateboard or on a fingerboard?
Learning a trick on a real skateboard is definitely more painful because you can actually get hurt doing it. So I started fingerboarding in 4th grade. I had just started skateboarding shortly before that, and I was totally hooked. It was awesome. And so kids in my 4th grade class had fingerboards, tech decks, and they were playing with them during class and during recess, and I just thought it was the coolest thing ever, so that's where it all started. A lot of my first fingerboarding was done on books, and we would stack them to make stair sets and stuff like that, so you can be really creative and you can fingerboard just about anywhere.
You might be able to fingerboard anywhere, but Mike has spent most of his life creating the ultimate fingerboard park. He spends well over 40 hours a week surrounded by miniature skateboards and his collection of tiny skate parks.
We are in the FlatFace Fingerboards building in Drake, Massachusetts. It's basically a huge building full of fingerboard parks. There's at least 25 of them in here, so you can come in and just fingerboard all day long, and it's just an awesome place for people to get together and have fun. The first trick I remember learning was a varial flip. I was trying a kick flip and it kept doing varial flips, so I got really good at varial flips. One big moment that I can remember learning how to fingerboard that was pretty profound was like the first time that I did a kickflip nose slide, because it took me an hour, like straight 1 hour at my desk trying it over and over again, not doing it. And then all of a sudden I did it and I noticed my camera was off. The battery had died, so I didn't even get it on film. But it was more of like, all right, I actually just did this thing that I thought was impossible. And then I realized I could pretty much learn any trick if I just apply myself to it. There's a lot of really complex tricks that I do, and once I do them, they feel easy afterwards, but it takes a long time to get to that point. So it's kind of always growing and evolving over time.
19 years of intense practice has given Mike a catalog of tricks that rivals any skater to grace a Thrasher cover.
So the most basic trick is an ollie, and that's just a simple jump where the board appears to be stuck to your fingers, but it's not. The way that it works is that your middle finger is going to pop the board against the ground, where the board kind of gets momentum from hitting the ground, and then you're basically lifting your hand with it, guiding it, and then when you've reached the peak and level out, then you just go back down with it. So once you've mastered the ollie, people usually move on to a kick flip, which is one of these. Basically you pop it like an ollie, then you flick it with this finger, which makes the board flip. And then when it's done flipping, you land on it, and then you land on the ground. Next, you could learn something like a varial flip, which is a kick flip where the board also turns 180 degrees. Then after that, you could do a tray flip, which is a 360-degree rotation plus a kick flip. Instead of popping straight down with your back finger, you're basically scooping it a little as you pop, like that, and that's what's setting the spinning rotation, and then you're flicking it similar to a normal kick flip with your front finger. Then you can start turning your whole hand with it. You can do like a frontside flip, backside flip, spinning the other direction, a big flip, which is like a tray flip with the 180. So there's tons of levels, and then you can combine more and more things together. I could do a kick flip to late impossible. So an impossible, where you wrap it around your finger, but I can do like a kick flip first. I got it first try.
Yeah, it's hard to believe it's so hard when you're making it look so easy.
That's the thing, once you learn it, it's not really that hard, but until you get to the point where you can do it, it's super hard. If I invent a trick, I'd probably name it Rhombus after my cat.
Just like real-life skating, Mike is constantly pushing himself to master new tricks.
Once you have all kinds of tricks you've learned, you can incorporate them onto different elements of different skate parks, doing tricks in different combinations, so the possibilities are endless. When I want to learn a new trick, I pretty much just go for it. Fingerboarding and skateboarding are both kind of trial and error and just learning what doesn't work in order to learn what does work. So you have a vision of how you think a trick should be done, and each time that you try it again, there's a slight adjustment. So you might be moving one of your fingers into a different spot, or faster or slower, a different angle, and all that kind of stuff comes together. And then you'll notice that you're either getting closer and closer to landing it, or you're getting farther from it, and then you can keep adjusting. A lot of times when I have a trick in mind, I kind of have a spot in mind for it. Some of them are pretty specific, and then other times, if it's something more basic, you can really do it anywhere, which is cool. It's still crazy to me, even though I've been doing it for so long, that I built what I built and that I made the boards and everything. Like when I'm using a board that I made, on one hand, I'm used to it, but on the other hand, it's like, wow, I really made a board that I think, at least for me, it works better than any other fingerboard. So it's really satisfying in that way.
In his quest for the ideal fingerboard, Mike decided to just do it himself. So in his humble basement in Massachusetts, Mike estimates he's built thousands of decks over the years and shipped them out to customers all over the globe.
All right, so we're gonna mold a board here. We're gonna start out by cutting the wood. It's this really thin maple, which is gonna be layered and then molded into shape. So we'll cut 2 plies with the wood grain horizontal, and then there's gonna be 3 with vertical grain. So that keeps it basically so that the shape will hold over time. It just keeps the whole thing really strong and sturdy. Now that we've got our wood cut, we're gonna glue it together and put it in the mold, which will give it its shape. The plastic wrap is just to keep everything clean, so it doesn't make a huge mess everywhere on the mold. This is the mold. It's got the shape of the board, and the wood just goes right in it. And then you squeeze it in here.
The molding process takes several hours in order for the board to fully harden and be ready for sanding.
So while the board sits in there, I picked out another board that I've already molded so I can continue showing the process. So basically, it starts out as a rectangle, and you need to sand it to the right width, and then you have to sand the nose and tail to be round. So it's gonna end up looking like the skateboard shape, and it just helps with performance and everything. All right, so now the board is finished being sanded into shape. As you can tell, it's got that skateboard shape to it, and it's pretty much ready for the next step.
Mike's process for lacquering and finishing his boards is proprietary. But after several hours, that recently sanded piece of wood looks and feels just like a real skateboard.
First, we're gonna put the trucks on. These are made in Germany, and they're super realistic, just like a real skate truck, and they have bushings they can turn, and they got lock nuts and all that. So they're gonna screw on to the board pretty much how you would do it on a skateboard. Luckily, most people like to put their own boards together, so we pretty much just sell the parts and people do it themselves. I think my favorite part of putting together a board is kind of the whole thing. Like, each step is pretty satisfying. The way that the trucks go on when the holes are perfect is nice, and then just getting the wheels on and putting the tape, it's just a really good feeling. Like, anytime you set up a new board, it's really exciting no matter what. And there it is. The decks have evolved a lot. The first ones that I made, they were pretty good, but if you compare them to now, they're all super shiny and perfect and uniform every time. And back then it was kind of hit or miss because I was still learning what I was doing and really making them as I go, kind of in an always tweaking the dimensions and the shapes. Basically every single upgrade was, oh, I think if I change this part, it'll make it a little better. If I just move the nose and tail shorter or farther away from each other, like all these little movements, and adapting it as I went along made it into what it is today, and now it's like pretty much perfect. I think my favorite thing about the fingerboard community is just how much joy it brings to everybody, because it doesn't matter who you are or where you're from, it just like everybody gets along really well, and a lot of us have made like lifelong friends through the whole process. You can just do it anywhere. You see the world in a different way because you'll see something that looks like a ramp that nobody who doesn't fingerboard would ever notice. But because you fingerboard, you're just like, oh, I gotta do at least one trick on that. And so it just kind of makes the world like more exciting.